Welcome to this podcast for National Schools Training, ILM Diploma Level 4, Schools Business Management Qualification. The topic area is Managing Finance in Schools. I'm looking at Module 4, Procurement and Value for Money. The purpose of the podcast is to provide a brief insight into how a school business manager has to lead this area. It is vital that the school business manager is confident in this area and has detailed knowledge of the regulations surrounding procurement. It is important to be able to get the best deal for your school. This may involve negotiating discounts. However, at the same time, you do need to follow the current legislation and understand the dangers if you inadvertently don't. As a cluster business manager, I'm closely involved in the achievement of value for money. Due to the cluster working arrangements, I'm able to negotiate purchasing deals for a number of schools and obtain discounts. For example, I have recently undertaken a procurement exercise for photocopying devices in 2 of my schools. The contracts were open for renewal at a similar time, and I wanted to explore whether any discounts could be achieved. I ensured the appropriate notice to the existing suppliers was given with the same end date. This extended one contract briefly, but ensured that the school was not tied into an extended term longer than that they wanted. I then used an existing framework agreement, which was the Crown Procurement Agreement, to establish what were the standard requirements for multifunction devices, as well as what were the standard terms and conditions. One of the schools had been approached by a supplier, and as the deputy head had entered into a dialogue with them, I decided that I would include the supplier in the process. Some care has to be taken when asking suppliers for prices, and if a tendering exercise is undertaken, in certain circumstances, suppliers can legally challenge the result, and if the process has not been correctly undertaken, it could result in damages being awarded. This is one of the reasons that I used the Government Framework Agreement for this contract. It also allowed easy comparison of prices as suppliers have met the minimum requirements in order to submit the price. I had to make the decision of what were the minimum requirements, such as copies per minute, any size restrictions, stapler options, scanning and networking, as well as over what time period we needed the machine for. I decided on a 4-year contract, which increases the rental, but due to the heavy uses of the machines, they do tend to start having problems in the 5th year and frequently break down. I received feedback from our county-wide school business manager group regarding the suppliers in the framework agreement. Some of this was negative. So in addition to these 2 suppliers that had approached the school to provide a costing, I wanted to include another supplier who had an excellent reputation. The supplier is included in another local authority framework agreement, but is not included in the Crown framework. This is simply because they're unable to meet the Crown criteria of being able to supply nationwide. Clearly, this did not make any difference to the awarding of my contract. I then devised a simple form listing the requirements and the key terms and conditions of the contract. This included that delivery and collection at the end of the contract be included in the price. The price is to be held for the entire contract, and any copies in excess of the estimate number of copies should be charged at the same price as in the contract. The charging of excess copies was particularly important to me. I was aware of another school who had procured a new copier, but they'd exceeded their estimate of copies by a significant amount. The company then charged the excess copies at a high penalty charge, and the contract cost over £20,000 more than anticipated. To be considered in the procurement exercise, the suppliers had to agree to these conditions. Only one of the 3 non-framework suppliers agreed to the terms and submitted a price. I then asked the purchasing consortium to benchmark this price against the Crown framework suppliers. The Crown Framework suppliers would not provide discounts for supplying to schools, but the smaller supplier did. This created savings of around 33% for one school and 10% for the other compared to the next lowest price of the Crown Framework. The Crown Framework prices was also similar to the existing contract prices. The sharing of experiences with suppliers also assists with the achievement of value for money. By asking our local authority school business manager network of their experiences with photocopier suppliers, I'm aware of some of the issues that schools have had with certain named suppliers. This then means that common problems such as that could be avoided. Had I not been made aware of the high penalty charge for excess copies, I've not been able to have the knowledge to be able to avoid this. Certainly, if the costing of any contract seems abnormally low to you, you need to be happy that you are comparing like with like. There is no reason why procurement exercises cannot be completed for a number of schools and shared arrangements put in place. Schools and school business managers often work in isolation and in a vacuum. It is therefore important to share ideas and expertise, as this will lead to greater efficiency. When negotiating a text messaging service for my cluster schools, I decided to open this out to a wider area. I simply emailed around our school's network, asking whether they wanted to be included. This enabled me to negotiate a very large discount. If other schools are willing to share information on discounts that they've obtained, it creates a better understanding of what discount can be expected and what is reasonable. It is also important to make time to review a number of contracts each year. I have set up a schedule to ensure that this is done. The results are shared with Governor Trustees, and I invite them to share their expertise when looking at contracts. This ensures that the purchasing decision is debated and can be challenged by Governor Trustees. Remember that you are using public money and decisions have to be robust, extravagance be avoided, as well as ensuring purchases are fit for purpose, that is, that they support the school vision and they have an impact on pupil outcomes. I hope that you found these examples interesting and take the time to consider what savings can be made for your schools.